What's up, everybody, and happy Friday. Welcome to another Stanley Cup Final edition of Morning Cup of Hockey presented by Bet365. That's Colby Cohen. I'm Johnny Lazarus. We got one of our favorite guests, recurring guests, hopping on today, Mike Rupp, who's live in Edmonton and was kind enough to wake up 2 hours earlier to get on with us. We know the time change in Edmonton. Not everyone is willing to get up, but Rupper is one of them. So grateful that he will be joining us. Colby, I don't know about you, but I was singing that Plead the Fifth song all day yesterday. It was stuck in my head the entire day from G coming on here and singing it. I can't imagine you walking around singing a song that's stuck in your head, though. Do you ever sing out loud? You don't strike me as one of those guys.
The songs that are stuck in my head are from Encanto and from Frozen.
I've watched Encanto. I've seen Encanto.
So definitely not the song that G was singing, although I will compliment him. He did have a pretty good voice. Surprisingly, he sang that song pretty well. Yeah. And that clip kind of blew up a little bit yesterday.
Did it?
So he's obviously proud of his singing. Good for him. You know, he drew some attention to something that, there you go, Ben. You know it. Ben Benya says Colby doesn't talk about Bruno. Obviously, Ben Benya has children. So
what's Bruno? Isn't Bruno the Sacha Baron Cohen movie?
That's one of the songs from Encanto. So those are mostly the songs that we're walking around.
Oh, your microphone just went out. Something happened. Let's figure that out while Colby figures that out. Obviously, he's in a different location today. The Cohens are on the beach. Thank God. I don't even know if he can hear me or not.
I can hear you, you idiot. This plug.
Oh, that's so good. Either way, we want to get right into a big topic here. And while Colby figures his microphone out, I'm actually going to give a shout out to our sponsor, Outwest. We're going to do our Outwest Worst Team of the Week a little bit differently today. So summer is here, folks, and we've got big news. Outwest just dropped 8 brand new polos built for wherever your day takes you, from the office to 18 holes to post-game beers. We're talking clean designs, athletic fits, and breathable performance fabric that holds up in the heat and in the boardroom. Whether you're rocking classic black or stepping into fresh seasonal colorways, these polos are made to be your go-to again and again. So check out all 8 styles now at outwest.us and make sure tomorrow's outfit is one worth repeating. Use code Cuppa, C-U-P-P-A, in all caps for 15% off of your first purchase. Out West, every game needs an outlaw. I actually just got my brother-in-law a polo for his birthday for the golf course. He's a big golf guy, so he loves it. He loves Out West. Go get your Out West polos now so you are decked out on the golf course. And we're doing our worst team of the week this week as the actual NHL themselves. And I was going to say bedroom, Jake. Yes, good call. The NHL themselves for the ratings. Not sure if everyone saw the tweet from Braylon Breeze. He does a great job of tweeting out all the TV info. But yesterday he said ratings from game 1 of Panthers Oilers averaged 2.418 million viewers across TNT and True TV, down 22% from last year on ABC and 12% from TNT's 2023 Stanley Cup Final coverage. Wednesday's contest is the least watched non-COVID game 1 since 2008's Detroit versus Pittsburgh Stanley Cup Final, which aired on Versus. Colby, why do you think that is?
Well, I also saw a tweet from the same account that said streaming on Max was up 40%.
Oh, really? I didn't see that one.
Yeah. So, by the way, the plug in the back of my mic is like super bent, so I got to get a new plug. So
that's what happened to me with my last microphone.
Yeah, I'm just realizing that now. Normally, I have it on the stand at home, you know. Mm-hmm. So, I just think people are consuming games much differently, and I think until they can figure out how to give us sort of like an all-encompassing number, I think it can be a little bit misleading. And here's the other thing.
Microphone's going out again.
So I think I'm just going to roll with my AirPods.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Right. So I think the thing is that we don't have 2 American fan bases built into this, right? I mean, you only have 1 American fan base. I'm sure the ratings in Canada are off the charts. You know what I mean? I'm sure they're doing very well with Canada. And so that's the tricky part for US TV ratings when you have a Canadian team in it. You're not getting 2 home markets counting towards your ratings. Now, granted, it's the Stanley Cup Finals. It should be everybody, right?
Mhm.
Like everybody who's a hockey fan should be watching, but I think that's where having 10 days off between games can really hurt your sport, right? And going head to head with NBA and having, again, you and I were talking about this yesterday. The NHL made a decision that they were going to go with TNT, right, as their B partner.
Mhm.
Obviously ESPN gets, it's a higher percentage of what they get versus TNT. And so I was explaining to you yesterday, like ABC, which is what NHL games, Cup games are on when it's ESPN, NBC, CBS, and Fox. They're in every home in America that has a cable plug.
Yeah.
TNT is the upgraded part of your cable. It's not in every home. So just right then and there, you lose certain casual people. You're talking about, 100 plus million homes versus maybe 50 million homes for TNT, right? And then you take the streaming aspect of it into it. Anybody who uses Fubo TV is watching on Max, right? YouTube TV does have TNT, but like some of the streaming services don't even have TNT on it. So now you're
Mhm.
streaming games. So we
Which
kind of
I didn't know that yesterday, by the way. I thought TNT was something that comes with every package.
well, listen, I'm
Yeah.
not saying but even ESPN, not every basic cable package doesn't have ESPN, right? But ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox, right? They are national channels in every single home.
Mhm.
If you have a television and a plug, those are the channels that you get, right? So there's just a different level of reach when you're with one of the major broadcast networks.
I do want to address the chat quick and also everyone in the chat, like for the next 20 minutes, if you have questions, like fire them at us. We have some things we want to get into, but obviously, like we want to hear from you guys these 2 days between games. We talked a lot about game one yesterday. We'll preview game two a little bit tonight. We'll hear from Rupper in about 20 minutes, but like we want to hear what you guys are thinking. And I just saw this comment from Victor. Victor is in Vietnam watching our show. He said ratings, and I'm gonna botch this. I think it's Hanoi, but ratings here in Hanoi, Vietnam lean heavily toward my apartment in my neighborhood. LOL. That's the first person I think that I've seen that listens to our show from Vietnam. So I just find that very cool, Victor. Thank you for joining us. I think that's kind of awesome that you're watching from Vietnam. And I saw T.A. Neiman actually said, my son actually forgot about it, and he always watches games with me. It's been so long since the third series that he forgot hockey was still going on. I think that's a big part of this case. Like my mom, my mom's not the biggest hockey fan, but she knows that we do our show. And she was like, oh, I didn't realize the Stanley Cup final was just now starting because it's been 6 fucking days between the conference final and the final. Like, and, granted, my mom, like, will turn on the game if it's on, but, she's not a diehard hockey fan. But, like, she's one person that you're missing out on just because of the delay between the conference final and final. Like, she just forgot that hockey was happening, Like, this pause was too long, I think, and it shows.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. And you don't have Boston, you don't have New York, you don't have one of those marquee markets. The Florida markets have become the dominant teams in the East as of the last number of years. And I think this is something that you were gonna have to get used to. You know what I mean? But look, they're gonna have to figure this out because, with Connor McDavid being in Edmonton, like you want this kid in prime time, you want him in a lot of households, and we'll see how they handle it. Honestly, I mean, I do think though that overall, you got to get those streaming numbers right. It's just something that is not being included in this, and I think it's just becoming more and more. I mean, I think how long until linear TV is not even relevant?
We're going that direction.
Of course we are. So, um,
But is there too much of an emphasis on TV ratings? Like,
no.
the TV ratings really matter?
Yeah, advertising, of course they matter. What do you mean, do they really matter?
Well, I'm saying the
If
actual
I'll tell
linear
you how they
television. The
matter.
linear
You wanna
television, I'm saying.
hold on. You wanna understand how they matter? You want the salary cap to go up? You want the TV
Ad
deals? You
revenue and
want
everything.
ESPN to say, "We wanna renew our TV deal, and instead of giving you 600,000,000, we're gonna give you 1,500,000,000," and then all of a sudden, the salary cap goes up, and all of a sudden, you can afford to have a better team, you can afford to pay players more. Of course it
But
matters.
I'm not saying ratings, I'm saying linear television ratings. Like, does that mean as much as it did 10 years ago? Definitely not, right?
I
With
don't
the
think
digital
ESPN
world,
would agree. I don't think ESPN would agree with you.
with the digital world, no?
Yeah, I get it, but like you can't say it doesn't matter when you pay $600 million for the rights to something. You need to turn around and monetize that, right? Or if you're TNT and you paid 400 million, you got to be able to monetize that. You got to be able to make money. You got to be able to produce games. You got to be able to travel people. It's not a good sign when TNT is not traveling people in the first round because they're cutting costs because
Yeah.
advertising revenue must be down. You don't see them cutting costs with their other sports because advertising revenues are not down. So it's very important, Johnny. You can't poo-poo it.
Yeah. And here's a good question from Tommy T. Would you rather give time between conference finals and finals for healthy players or less rest and time in between in exchange for a less attractive product? Would you rather give time? I need to read that again. Would you rather give time between conference finals and finals for healthy players or less stress and time in between in exchange for a less attractive product? Listen, is getting 5-6 days between conference finals and finals going to heal every player?
No.
Probably not at this point, right?
Well, let me address Mechanicsville in the chat who says, Colby, that's not logical. You can't afford a better team because of a TV package. Teams still share the pie evenly no matter what, how big the package is. If the salary goes up, if the salary cap goes up for every team, you can afford to keep your players. You can afford to get more free agents. Like,
Mhm.
how are you saying that's not logical? TV money is part of hockey related revenue. I'm not saying that they don't share money. Of course, it's a revenue sharing league, but how do you think they come up with the salary cap every year, guys? They take hockey related revenue, they have a formula. The players get half of the hockey related revenue, which is how they come up with a salary cap. That's why they charge the players escrow. They hold some money just to make sure at the end of the year, the projection $6 billion, they hit the projection. And now all of a sudden, you give all the players their escrow money back because the 50-50 revenue share versus what the league is owed and what the players are paid is the same thing. I mean, there's direct correlation there. I don't see how you say that doesn't make sense. So I mean it's I'm not giving you my opinion. I'm giving you the facts on how they arrange hockey related revenue into the salary cap. So I do see another thing in the chat from Coach Roosh about the Marty Necas situation.
Yeah.
There was quite a bit of information that came out of Colorado yesterday. You have the Marty Necas is potentially unhappy with his fit there.
Brock Nelson signs.
And then you have the Brock Nelson signing. And then the other thing that was interesting is I think was it Elliott that reported that Charlie Coyle might not be a fit there, that they're looking at that Charlie Coyle acquisition as maybe not the right fit.
I think so. Because weren't
I'm
you beaking me about Charlie, or that was Brant? Brant was chirping about Charlie Coyle and the Will Cooley line and all that kind of stuff from the other day.
It doesn't seem like Colorado is going to sit on their hands. They obviously weren't happy with the way things ended this year. Nathan McKinnon is not a guy who's going to, be part of anything stagnant. And I mean, they're going to get moving pretty quickly. But we've made a lot of fuss over Mikko Rantanen not wanting to be in Carolina. Then they had to flip him again. We've yet to ever criticize Colorado for bringing in Marty Necas without some long-term extension signed.
Mhm.
We've never actually gone down that road
No,
and
not once.
criticized them for not paying Rantanen. We've never criticized them, we've only criticized Carolina for not knowing if Rantanen would stay. Well, what if Marty Necas doesn't stay? Then how does that whole thing look? So what? You end up with Jack Drury for Mikko Rantanen
Pretty
if
much.
Necas walks and doesn't sign an extension? I mean, that's like a fireable offense, is it not? I mean, I like Chris McFarland, but that's something that we're not talking nearly about.
Brad just texted. So, Brad just texted us saying I wasn't trying to chirp. Brad, I was just messing with you. Don't worry about it. But no, yeah, it's a good point to bring up. I mean, listen, if that is the trade at the end of the day, and I guess what does Dallas? Dallas gets Rantanen for Stankoven and picks. Like, how does this all work now with the way the whole trade ends up winding down? Like,
I mean,
what
it
would it
doesn't
be?
really matter.
It
That's
doesn't
not
matter.
where
Yeah.
I'm going
I'm
with
trying.
it.
I'm
I'm
trying to think
just
about the whole trade in general, though. Like,
if Marty Necas doesn't sign, like
you lose Rantanen for nothing.
you lose Rantanen for Jack Drury. I
Yeah.
mean, that's what it ends up coming down to. I mean, that is not a good situation. Now, Necas does have 1 year left on his contract, but if you get indications that he's not looking to extend there long
Mhm.
term, how long are you going to sit on that? You're going to wait till the trade
You're,
deadline?
you're you're trading him maybe this
You're
summer.
probably doing it
Yeah.
this summer.
Mhm.
You're probably looking to move him at the draft if you're not getting a commitment out of him long term. I mean, that like you basically have to, cut bait, and then at that point, Carolina's the winner here in the trade. Which, listen, I criticize them. They turn around, they got their picks back, uh they get
Stankoven.
Logan Stankoven, who Rod Brindamore said yesterday that he really likes. It was interesting to hear Rod Brindamore. I sent you guys that clip. Vic, I don't know if you have that clip that you can roll in here really quickly, but Rod Brindamore was kind of, let's say, clearing the air on the whole Rantanen situation yesterday. Vic, why don't you go ahead and play that Rod Brindamore sound, and we can see what the chat thinks about that.
Obviously, we know you a little bit. You're ultra competitive. You have a conversation with Mikko Rantanen, and he says, I don't want to be here.
Okay,
You weren't on my list.
That.
Okay,
he didn't actually ever say that to me. I just knew what he was thinking. He never actually told me.
He did not verbalize to you.
No, but this goes back to there's a bigger backstory. But the point of the whole thing is, Mikko did us a favor. He got here. It wasn't that he didn't like us. And he's like, I'm a free agent in a month. I'm not. I have to sign now. We're not. Whoa! I just need time. We can't give you time because if we goes to free agency and we lose you for nothing, that's really not good. Everything just got poured onto him, and he needed to take a break. And I get it. Had he had another year on his deal, and we weren't talking about this, I bet you he would have. This would have been a non-factor. He made a decision, and he actually helped us by at least saying, I know I want to go there. There's 3 teams I might go to. Try that. Essentially what happened. So now we give management credit. They pivot, and we pull off a deal that at least we get. And we get a player that we kind of knew we thought we might like. Turned out we really like him. So that I think salvaged that whole thing.
I love listening to Rod Brindamore speak, by the way. I find him very entertaining. But with that, I think he's absolutely like, listen, if you say you don't want to stay somewhere and you can get something in return, like now the Leafs are going to miss out on Marner, right? Like they're going to lose Marner for nothing.
I said that to Frank Saravalli over a year ago. Frank and I got into it over Marner.
I think it was Doogie that said, could Marner end up signing in Colorado? Maybe they get rid of Necas, clear up some space, and maybe that's where he goes.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you're talking about clearing up $6.5 million in cap space for a guy who's going to command, close to 13. But it is just interesting, right? Like Rantanen never came out and said, I don't want to be here. It was just, he said, look, I'm not ready to negotiate a long-term contract, and Carolina had to make a decision. So at the end of the day, like I actually commend, I was pretty rough on Eric Tulsky when talking about that whole situation. I have to kind of walk some of that back, right? Maybe Eric Tulsky's smarter than I am, and I'm obviously being sarcastic. He's obviously smarter than I am. That guy's, we know about his brain. And his background. So I actually, when you walk away from this whole thing, again, depending on what happens with Necas, and who knows if that's true or not, those are rumblings. It's certainly making Carolina look better and better by the day. And then with Rod, it's funny to listen to him talk in that setting. He's never clearly a guy who likes doing media. He does it because he has to. When he does his in-game interviews on the bench, sometimes they come off as a little whiny, in my opinion. But it's funny. He's just, man, he rides the emotional roller coaster as a coach about as much as as much as any coach. I mean, he is like, his fire. Sometimes I actually think he wants to jump over the boards and go take a face off. And he probably believes that he still can. Somewhere deep in there, and he might even be able to. From what I understand, the guy's like a fitness freak. So, hey, what other topics around the NHL do we want to get to? Go ahead, Johnny.
Well, just Ben Benya wrote, does Carolina with Rantanen through the end of the season, no contract extension, steal a series from Florida, how Dallas/Rantanen stole it away from Colorado? I don't think so. I don't think Mikko Rantanen is the difference in a Carolina versus Florida series. Like, I don't think one player, no matter, I mean, maybe if it's like McDavid or McKinnon or something, can change the outcome of that series. But Florida was just so much better than Carolina the whole way. Like, I don't think Mikko Rantanen can truly make a difference in that series. If it's a game 7, if it gets to 7 games, like, that's where the difference could be. But I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, but it's hard to like, you never know. You don't know what changes the matchups, it changes the pairings, who's playing winger, who, like, it slots guys down the lineup into different roles. Like, I don't know, man. I think it can have an effect that it's hard for us to just sit here and put our finger on it and say, hey, this or that. You're probably right. Like, I'm not sitting here saying you're wrong. And
I
Green in
can't
the chat
believe
says
you're giving like that even some life.
Well, listen, did you watch the Canes Panthers series? I don't think 97 could swing. I agree. Listen, it was David versus Goliath. I'm just saying, like, you drop a player of that magnitude into a lineup, and again, like, your power play looks different. You get one of those goals early in those games against Florida, like, things can definitely change, right? So, the other thing we didn't really hit on as we were just talking about Colorado was the Brock Nelson extension.
Mm-hmm.
You like that extension?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I don't think it's very what was it, 3 by 3.7? No, it was more than 3.75. What was the
$7.5 million times 3? Yeah.
That's what he was going to get anywhere else, right? He was going to get $7.5 million, I think, from every other team. I think the Islanders offered him a similar contract from what I saw Stefan Rosner post yesterday. I'll try to find that exact tweet. But I mean, Brock Nelson, I thought, could have played a little bit better. But they needed that second line center role filled. And he's a reliable guy. That's something that they've been missing since they won the cup. Granted, like I said, his playoffs probably weren't up to what they expected from him, but having a full season there under his belt, maybe, who knows what that looks like going forward. And I don't think you're paying too much for Brock Nelson at 7.5.
And remember, $7.5 million is in the new cap world would be like paying Brock Nelson probably like $6 million yesterday. The old cap, $7.5 million is like 6. So that's pretty good for a guy who's going to come in and you're never going to have to worry about him as your second line center. He's also going to be better next year. You drop a guy in at the trade deadline. We talk about it. It seldomly is a perfectly seamless fit. When you see guys really start to get comfortable, is generally the next season. And, Chad Cole's asking, would the Avs rather have Nelson as their second line center or Kadri? I think Kadri is a cup winner there, Chad. And I think, obviously the comfortability there would be ideal, but I'm pretty sure Kadri, I don't know exactly what his contract is like as far as how many years he has left in Calgary, but
I'll look.
They have not been all that willing to move Kadri. I mean, look, Kadri's got 1, 2, 3. He's got 4 more years. I think he's a year older or at least the same age. Like, 3 years versus 4 years. Money's a little lighter. Yeah, but like, you would have to go out and get him. Like, Calgary would have to be willing to give him to you for something. Like, what are they parting with to get Kadri?
Yeah, I know. I guess Marvin saying Kadri has no desire to move. Someone's going to go out and try. Well, I guess Calgary now is kind of back in the mix after the year they had this year, right? They're not going to look to move him at this point. With Dustin Wolfengold, they were flirting with the playoffs.
Well, and there's another good question in the chat. Somebody asked, I'm trying to find it. What's John Tavares going to get if Brock? Oh, there you go. Randy asked us, if Nelson gets $7.5 million? What is John Tavares getting? John Tavares had how many goals this year?
Did he have north of 40?
He's a little bit older. I think he had about 40, and he's a little bit older. He's 34, turning 35 because he's born in September of 90. So he'll be 35 years old when the season starts next year. because he turns 35 in September. So
Mhm.
a little bit different. Almost scored 40 this year. What does he get? What do you think he gets, Johnny?
On the Leafs or not on the Leafs? Probably not on the Leafs, right?
What do you think he gets? I mean, somebody said $4 million.
Weren't Leafs fans
Let's
saying
see.
like 5x5? Wasn't that something
Three and
that
a
Leafs fans were saying earlier?
Sharma says $3.5 million times 6 years.
That's insane. That's
I
unhealthy.
mean, John Tavares scored almost 40 goals last year. You think he's going to
And he was
sign
making
a
what? He was
three and
making
a
10 million? Was he making 10?
unless he just makes a decision that I'm good not making any money because I just want to be a Leaf, he's not taking a $3.5 million deal. I mean, that's insulting. I mean, John Tavares is a $9 million player at least. I mean, if he
Well,
wants a lot of
how
year,
many years do you want to give him though at 34 years old?
well, he'll be 35 to start the season. So his next contract will kick in as will be one of those 35 plus contracts. Although I don't know how that works. Does that I guess if you sign it before you turn 35, then maybe not. And he'll sign it this summer and he'll still be 34. But again, Lisa Gritton says he will take 4x4 in the chat. I'm trying to think. Tavares is $5 million for 3 years from Sean Holm. I don't know, guys. Like I think that I think it's wishful thinking for a player who could still make $9 to $10 million a year to think he would take 4. If he's worth 9, maybe he would take 7.5 as a discount if they were willing to give him a couple of extra years. So Chris Nosek is letting me know the 35 plus contract has to be after he's 35. So that wouldn't count here. So there's a little bit more protection on that type of contract. If you do want to give him years, you can get away with it a little bit more.
Ooh, I like what
I don't know.
Marine said though about Stammers 4x8 last year.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
that could be around what the contract looks like.
I have a hard time seeing John Tavares making less than $8 million.
Yeah, I agree.
really do. I mean, that's a lot of money. The people that are saying $4 million a year, $3.5 million a year, $5 million a year, like you're talking about leaving between $3 and $5 million per season over the course of 3 or 4 years. That's $25 million to leave on the table. Like I mean, that would be more than a hometown discount. That would be like devaluing yourself at a whole nother level.
Mhm.
And I don't know. I don't know if I see a player doing that. And again, I've never spoke to him about it. But we can maybe ask Rupper when you read him into this, because
Yeah.
I'm kind of blown away by some of I think the people that are throwing that in there, that's got to be wishful thinking from Leafs fans, right? Like that
I would
can't
think so.
be.
I would think so.
And Lisa's saying he's already made money, but listen, like I don't think you could say that with a player who's going to be he's never going to work again potentially after he's 38 years old, right? And so the whole he's already made his money thing, but he scored almost 40 goals last year. This isn't a guy who can't play anymore. He's thinking he's going to take $3 million a year on a hometown discount. I think that's way closer to wishful thinking than reality.
Yeah. I would like to flip gears though and kind of keep it about the final and talk about tonight, maybe game 1 a little bit.
Just ask him about this really quick, and then we'll talk about the finals. Okay, go ahead. Read him into the show.
So we haven't heard from Rupp actually in a while, so I'm really happy he's back here. And again, very thankful he woke up early to come on this morning. But just a quick word from our sponsor, Proraso, the most complete choice for shaving and beard care, made in Italy since 1948. Proraso has been a staple of Italian culture and barbershops globally for 4 generations, so get 15% off at Proraso-USA.com with our promo code Hockey15 in all caps, Hockey15. And let's bring on friend of the show, recurring guest, Mike Rupp, if we can see that.
Oh, was I frozen for a second? There we go. That's a great still image.
How you doing? How's Edmonton treating you? Did you get to go out on the town last night?
Yeah, we had we went golfing yesterday. We had a great setup at Royal Mayfair out here. So it was a great day of golf, great weather. So yeah, we got to enjoy that part of Edmonton that you don't see as a player, right? It's always been snowy here every time we've come. So the last 2 years it's it's been fun to be able to see the nice areas of Edmonton, and we got to experience it yesterday.
All right, Rupper, look, before we talk about Edmonton and the games, we just ended up down a rabbit hole here. So I'm just curious your opinion on this. We were talking about the contract that Brock Nelson got, and then somebody in our chat said, well, what do you think John Tavares is going to get if Brock Nelson got $7.5 million? And John Tavares had 38 goals this year, and people in the chat, and I'm assuming it's Leafs fans, and I'm saying I think it's I haven't used the word delusional because I'm trying to be nice today, but I mean, we've seen numbers of people dropping in our chat saying, oh, he's going to take a hometown discount, $3.5 million, $4 million. Like, they're throwing out these numbers that are really, really low for a guy who just scored 38 goals. And I said to Johnny, I'm like, Johnny, maybe his discount would be $7.5 to $8 million a season, but like, this guy could go out and get $10 million on the open market probably. Am I crazy? Like $3.5–4 million is a little insane, isn't it, Rupper?
To expect him to do that, yeah, that's insane. Now I don't know none of us know what he is thinking and what he would do. I do believe he would probably take a significant discount, but to your point, off of where he's at now, and we probably all say he's paid too much and probably has been paid too much over the course of his tenure as a Leaf, but he's still like, this guy's still a 70, 80, 85 point guy. Like, oh, look at the doggy. There we go. But this is a guy like, he's so consistent. I mean, he is, but I don't know. I think there's a magic number in there because we all know that he wants to be a Toronto Maple Leaf. He probably wants to see this through. Feels like there's progress here, but $3 million. I mean, I would probably have to say anything under 6 is very wishful thinking, in my opinion.
Okay. All right. So let's pivot to the thing
now.
Yeah, we can move past that now. I wanted to know, like, maybe I'm just completely coming at it the wrong way. And Rupper's usually a pretty level-headed guy, I would say. So it's good to ask him about it, Johnny. So all right, let's get to the Cup Finals here, because I know that's why we brought Rupper on.
I'm with D White in the chat right now. D says, let's talk about winning teams. You have all summer to talk about the 30 losers in the league. So let's move on. And Rupper, I'm going to put you, I don't know if this is the hot seat here, but a little thinking question. And Colby, I want you to come up with an answer too. If you can pick one individual player in tonight's game that has the most pressure on them to perform, who would it be?
Oh man.
And it doesn't have to be based on last game. It could be like going forward.
Yeah,
I got mine right to mine. The name came right to me. So I'll let Rupper go first, but I'm ready when you are.
Yeah, I mean, you know what, I'm going to say this, and I know he's really banged up. I think there's pressure on Matthew Tkachuk. And the reason why I'll say Matthew Tkachuk, he made a great play on the Verhaeghe goal. Mm-hmm. He's clearly messed up. He's clearly dealing with stuff. We've known it. And the reason why I say him is because this guy is kind of the what is it? The spiritual leader, he is the focal point of who the Florida Panthers are. And I know that he wears that very proudly on his sleeve. And I think they need a spark in some ways, because to me, it feels different this year. It feels a little bit different. I know it's only been one game. I'm not ruling these guys out. Florida Panthers have been my favorite team for the past 25 years that I've watched play the game. The way they approach it, I feel like there's a lot of pressure on him to try to do something to give this team a big spark. Who you guys got? I don't know.
They're more your favorite team than the team you won the cup with?
The way they play, yeah. Just no. I mean, if it's like, if I could handpick how I'd want my hockey team to play, and it'd be like that, how well connected and everything they are. I mean, the Devils, yeah, we won a cup, but it's boring as hell sometimes to play that game.
Colby, who's yours? I got mine too.
Stuart Skinner. Skinner.
I mean, like mine also. That's mine too.
To me, like the minute you said that, it was Stuart Skinner, and the reason for that being is Rupper, everything you said makes complete sense, right? Like, this team goes as Matthew Tkachuk, sort of like he's the straw, right? He stirs it all up. He's and granted, he has Brad Marchand to kind of like fill some of the gap and help him through his injury, because I know Marshy can be that guy too. But Stuart Skinner is always going to be under the microphone for the reasons that we know. Didn't play 6 games in a row, and kind of lost his starting job for a while to Calvin Pickard. Granted, everybody in Edmonton was like not panicking over that because they're like, that's just Stu. But like, look, last year Stu didn't have a bad Cup final, but Bob just made a couple more saves, and that's the other thing. Like, you're going to have to be at your best to beat Sergei Bobrovsky, and I think the pressure goes to Stuart Skinner, and so I think that is to me at least it's a no brainer, and it's going to be Stuart Skinner until we get to about game 6 or 7, if it gets to that point, and then it's going to be Connor McDavid. And
That's a good point, yeah.
I'm not changing my mind on that probably.
So for me, I thought Stu, just because, not that he like played poorly by any means in game 1, like he was good. I don't think any goals were really his fault in game 1, right? It's a Bennett collision, cross seam pass on a power play, and then a Bennett breakaway. But for me, Edmonton has a chance to take a 2-0. I don't want to say stranglehold, but a pretty significant series lead here with this series going back to Florida. And if Stu can win this game tonight convincingly, the confidence that puts through their team going into Florida, I think is just something beyond different than, if Stuart Skinner plays a solid game, but not like an extraordinary game, and this series is tied 1-1 going back to Florida. You know what I mean? Like, their confidence in him. I'm not, and no, J-Rock, this is no must-win conversation. I'm just saying the Edmonton Oilers have a chance to really do something big here tonight, and I don't think they can let that slip. And that's why I think Stuart Skinner has to be the guy tonight.
I find that both goalies are very Zen-like in a lot of ways, and you see it with Bob because all of his rituals and things he does before each game, and then the way he just kind of gets himself focused. But the way Stuart Skinner, man, I'm just so impressed the way this guy just lets things roll off him. And I don't understand how he does it. It's amazing to me because I mentioned this, I believe I said this maybe even last year with you guys when we were talking about it. The story's already been written. If Edmonton loses, and this has been the story for the last couple of years, it's because of the goaltender. It doesn't even matter if that's not the story. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. That has been written. If they lose this finals, everyone's going to say, what if we went out and got that goalie we've been talking about? You know what I mean? And it's bullshit. It's such bullshit because this guy has been really good. And let me say this, though. There's games where he's really bad, but he always bounces back. Like, that's what's so impressive with him. And even in this last game, I mean, if you look at some of the underlying numbers, slot shots, opportunities, Florida had the better. I thought Bob was awesome in the game. Bob was amazing. But the way that game starts, I mean, your teams dominate and play, and it's 2 goals on 4 shots. I'm like, oh no, where's this going to go? Oh,
this is in trouble. They're in trouble.
Yeah. So he's so impressive.
I will say this though, Rupper. Tyler Yaremchuk came on our show the other day and said that game 7, everyone talks about how Bob, and we are guilty of that, how Bob made 1 extra save than Skinner did, but no one really says the Edmonton Oilers came out in a 1-game winner-take-all for the Stanley Cup, and they only scored 1 goal. So that's something that changed my thought process a little bit. But I also want to address this comment in the chat from Marvin. Marvin said the Panthers were down 2-0 versus the Leafs. How'd that go, Johnny? LOL. The Leafs are not the Oilers. I am way more confident in the Oilers' the 2-0 series lead in this scenario than I would have been with the Leafs up 2-0.
We can do an entire show on the difference of the Edmonton Oilers and the Toronto Maple Leafs. We could do a week of it, boys, every single day. And it's like, I hope that the Toronto Maple Leaf players are watching what this team goes through, what they've done over the last 2 years. And I'm not a Leaf hater. I'm not. I like to be realistic, and I don't like seeing teams and players waste opportunities because they think that they're right there. You're never right there. You've got to do something different. I mean, I had a conversation with Elliot Friedman yesterday, and I know on his pod, I think he mentioned, and I asked him about it. I said, hey, what you gave Leon a Selke vote, the only first place vote that Leon got. Where did that come from? And just paraphrasing to shorten it up. He just basically I was doing my research. I didn't want to just give a run of the mill answer. And he said, I asked some people in the Western Conference. They said, keep an eye on Leon. He's really made some strides in his defensive game. He ran into Leon, I don't know, whatever, weeks later, or a couple weeks later. And he asked him what winning a Selke would mean to him. And Leon said that would mean more to him than any other personal award. And I'm like, okay, hold on a second. Why is that the case? And I immediately went back to Sidney Crosby and went back to the summer of 2009 after they won the Cup. I signed in Pittsburgh after that. But it frustrated him that he was not on the ice in the last minute of games when they're leading. He wanted to be on the ice. He's a competitor. He's a junkyard dog in the way he approaches things. I don't like that I come off the ice and someone else. It's not that anybody. Craig Adams did the job, and he was amazing at it for those guys. And he was my line mate the next year. But Sid wanted to be that guy. He said, I'm going to work on my face-offs this year. And he actually said, I'm going to work on my shot. The next year is top 5 in the NHL in face-offs and scored 50 goals. And it's like, no, that's Sidney Crosby. But my point is, the greats are never happy with just scoring goals. Just like they want to
want the keys.
Yes. And the fact that Leon gives a shit is I'm like, okay, we knew this already, I think, about Leon, but like you're cooking with gas now. Like now you got something. And there's a lot of stars in the league. I don't think if you ask them like the high-end guys, what would it mean to be in the Selke country?
Some of them would tell you it's insulting. Some of them wouldn't even like it. Some of those guys.
I'm going to be in the Art Ross running,
Yeah.
Ted Lindsay, talk to me about Ted Lindsay. That'd be fine. I'd be okay with that. Selke, like, come on.
Well, and PK actually said this on ESPN, and he was talking about I don't know if it was last round, but he said, I think they got to get Connor McDavid off the penalty kill. And it's funny, like I was like, next time I run into him, I'm going to tell him, I'll be like, you want to be the guy to tell Connor he's coming off the penalty kill? You want to tell him, hey, there's going to be probably 5 penalties a game. Okay, so that's 10 minutes where you were going to sit there and watch everybody else go out. Good luck with that conversation. No. Good luck pulling him off the penalty kill. And that's where you make a great point. Like it is soul crushing to some of these elites. They don't want to come off the ice no matter what the situation is. And the commitment to playing hard, heavy defense. It's really impressive, the difference between games 1 and 2 for the Edmonton Oilers in the playoffs against the LA Kings, when Leon and Connor were cheating the zone and they were flying by. And then ever since game 3 of that first round series, these guys are playing as hard defensively as they are offensively.
100%.
And that is that commitment to doing the hard thing. And I'm not saying Austin Matthews isn't a good defensive player, because he is. Like he's really turned himself. But the commitment to doing the hard things, though, that is just so glaringly different between the Edmonton Oilers and just about everybody else at this point. Florida gets to be in that category as well.
100%. That's why they are where they are right now.
Is there anything? You were in the building for game 1. Was there anything that caught you by surprise come game 1? The one thing I will say that, like, if I'm an Oilers fan where I'm concerned, is the Edmonton Oilers, I thought, played as good of a game as they could have, aside from the second period where Florida was probably taking it to them a little bit, and that game still goes to overtime. So, like, how much better does Edmonton have to be to really put this team away? Like, that's the one thing I'd look for.
I personally, I thought that both teams uncharacteristically had quite a few breakdowns on the goals. And it was game 1. There's a lot of stuff going on. Both teams did. It was a great game. Don't get me wrong. It was amazing atmosphere, but there were some breakdowns where I'm like, man, they just, they usually don't do that. There's a lot of defensive breakdowns. And but I'm sitting there, the one thing that kind of stood out to me, and we've talked about, it's been the storyline all playoffs with Edmonton, is the depth that's kind of surprised everybody in these playoffs. And I'll say this, and everybody that was watching the game thought it, and I just want to give it some background. I covered the Pittsburgh Penguins with Kasperi Kapanen in Pittsburgh. This is a different human being right now. This is a different human being. He's getting it. He's understanding what is needed from him right now, and Chris Knoblauch's rewarding him, and we all know his players. I'll get uncomfortable And if I do the things you want me to do, just give me some more ice time. Give me some more opportunity. I mean, that's that beautiful relationship between a coach and a player. You don't even have to say words. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to hit everything that moves. I'm going to play with speed and pace and all those things. I'm going to make sure I'm getting the puck out of the zone, all that stuff. And then, in turn, you're going to play with Leon. And that's exactly what any player would want. But I find the biggest thing for me was that fourth line of Florida not getting many minutes. I don't want to blame that on the no-stick puck over glass, but I've been in that position. And when you're not playing, you're not feeling the game, you're just trying to survive. And those types of plays happen. I know Paul Maurice wants to play them more. I think the way the game went, the fourth line for Edmonton with Podkolzin was awesome. They were having Florida in their zone. And then once they shortened that bench, not shortened the bench, once they kind of went the nuclear option with Connor and Leon on line one, then you kind of fell into Nuge, Evander Kane, and Kasperi Kapanen. Lights out. And that's how you were able to keep those big guys together into overtime and doing all that. So that's the biggest thing for me. Zone time, man, they were grinding Florida down. I thought the second half of the game, Florida looked dead. And because they were forced to shorten the bench because you're not going to sit there and be like, oh man, I got to work my fourth line out here. Well, Sasha Barkov has been sitting there for 5 minutes of game time. You know what I mean? Like, no, and it's the right move. You got to get Sasha back out there. But I thought they did a really good job of messing with the flow of the lines for the Florida Panthers. It's
not often you see the Panthers have a difficult time getting out of their own zone. Yeah. You look at how big, strong, and mobile, you've got defensemen that make a first pass and then some, 6 of them. And you can make that same case. This is the thing that I keep talking about with Jonny is like when you really look at for every this is why this side is better in this series, you can make the same counter argument. Like we definitely have the best 2 teams in the league playing in this series. And when you get to that, health obviously becomes a big issue, but I think coaching as well and like levers, right? And we've seen the levers that have been pulled between splitting up the big guys on Edmonton, getting them back together, right? Stetcher comes in, fills a big void for a while until Ekholm gets back. And they've really, Knoblauch has seemingly done an incredible job to me with the details, the way he's managed the minutes, the way he managed the goaltending situation. I'm wondering from your perspective, because you're there, I know you're getting time with the coaches, probably getting to have some of those moments in those meetings. Does this look like a different guy to you in year 2 behind the bench in this playoff run than last season?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. I don't know. I mean, I think that he's been pretty – you're talking Knoblauch. He's been very I've known Chris since back in his Erie days when he was there.
Oh, that's right.
And
that's right.
He has been the exact same. There's no show. There's no like he is just the exact same way. I feel like he's the exact same way as he was then. I think that he's done a really good job of just what I even said there with Kapanen. Like he's really good at empowering his players. And I sit there and when I watch the way he manages his team, you got to perform. He's not going to gift you things if you don't earn it and deserve it. So I think it makes his game or his coaching a little easier from a game like game 1 when you've got guys going and the way they've gotten depth guys going in the playoffs. Now, like, think how fun that is when you've got other lines going with Connor and Leon. You can mess with so much. You can sit there. I mean, I still don't think he does it enough. I think legitimately you could start every game, probably every period, with the big guys both out there for the same shift for shift 1. You could probably come back with just give me your other best line, whoever it is. Maybe it's your third line, whatever. Maybe it's a Nuge centered line, and then you come back the next shift with Connor, then with Leon, then you come back with Connor. Like you can mess with people. You want a line match? Like we're gonna mess up your entire flow.
Don't you think that throws everybody else out of whack a little bit though? Because not everybody. I mean, not like certain players do need that consistency. Not every guy's good enough to kind of poke in and poke out of the line.
Well, you move him around, not his line. So, I mean, me, if I'm on that team and I get playing, I mean, when I went to Pittsburgh, my best offensive year, which it was my years in Pittsburgh, and that was the selling point. Ray Shero said to me before I got there, he goes, listen, we're going to play 4 lines. But we see you as a 4th liner. You're going to play 5 minutes on the 4th line, and you're going to play 5 minutes with either Crosby, Malkin, or Stahl are going to drop down. And I think that's where like that luxury is like me, if I'm at Edmonton right now, if I can get out there for 4 shifts a game with either Connor or Leon, I'm like, are you kidding me? Yeah, let's do this.
Okay.
But I know what you mean. Now you're going to lose someone because it's just numbers wise.
Yeah.
Someone's going to get their minutes.
A
cut
great
back.
perspective from you, though. I mean, that's great perspective. You lived this, so that's real life experience.
It's I think to answer your original question, I think Knoblauch. I don't know if it's hard for me. I think he's been this coach. I think he's been so good, and that's why I love. If you went back in time when he got hired. And I know this one stings because Johnny, we knew who he was before. But everybody in the hockey world said, oh, nice. Connor's having his guy. Connor, this guy's going to, he's one of those soft, those soft superstars who he's going to start picking his coaches. Now he's going to build the team. Like, no. This guy's a great coach. And the hockey world knew it. He was the next up and comer. And so I just think everything he's done, he's been trending this way, but it certainly makes it easier when he gets some depth play. I think it allows him to do a lot of different things.
I think if Ron Hextall keeps his job back in Philly when Knoblauch was in Philly, I think Knoblauch ends up the head coach of the Philadelphia Flyers. Yeah. And the path of how they've hopped, they went to Alain Vigneault and they went to this guy. Yeah. I mean, like the way they've hopped around, he was like Ron Hextall's guy. And when Hextall gets fired, Hextall then goes soon thereafter. Obviously, things went in a little bit of a different way, but I do remember hearing that years ago when I was working and doing TV for those guys, Rupper, that like this Knoblauch guy, like he's a sharp guy. Just wait and see on him.
Yeah, I know. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, I remember that stretch in there, and that's the tough part too. Certain organizations don't usually go with the guy who hasn't coached there yet. And I agree with it in some standpoint, because a lot of those teams are like win now mode. We're not going to experiment and see if it translates. But, you did it with Hextall, you know what I mean? Like it's in Philly. So, he's been awesome. And these guys just seem like they love playing for him.
Rupper, I want to ask you more like, personal stuff about your own experience. Like, it's always great to get a player's perspective. Geez. You were in a 7-game series, 3 Cup final. Like, what are these guys doing on the days between games? Like what is obviously there's not a social life, but like, what are you doing to pass the time, when basically the only thing on your mind is that next game? Are you going out for dinner with Marty Brodeur and Scott Gomez and Scotty Niedermayer? What does that look like?
Yeah, we had probably a little different environment than a lot of teams because we were in Jersey under Lou, where it was. And what I mean by that, and it was great. Mm-hmm. We were with each other every second. You did not really have much of an option to like go off and go to. You didn't go to dinner. Like if you wanted to go to dinner, even in the regular season by yourself, we had mandatory team meals at the hotel in the conference room, or they have it catered by the hotel. And if the 3 of us wanted to go out to dinner and we were in some city and we're like, hey, we want to go to this spot, we'd show up to the team meal first, throw a couple pieces of lettuce on our plate, eat a couple pieces of salad, and then we'd go to our spot. So he was very like that's what it was. But playoffs, it's at that time it was a little different. It was a little while ago. There was the card playing guys. And that's the best part I loved about the playoffs. And you had your lounges in the hotel, right, where you went in there. You got treatment tables for the guys that were hurt.
Team room.
They had all the bells and whistles, right? Like you had all the Norma Tech, and then you had the, all the different gear to kind of flush the legs. And you were generally just watching all the other games. But in the finals, it ended up becoming there's no other games, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of card playing, and then there was a movie crew. They would sneak off and go to a different movie every off night. So you're just basically running through all the movies in the theater, whether they're good or not. But you're trying to unplug a little bit. And that wasn't really a time of social media. So you could probably better. But yeah, it was just, you're with each other a lot, man, like every second. So it's a great memory for sure.
And I always appreciate it, especially for me, because I was just a professional healthy scratch I appreciated the team room and the ping pong table that we'd have in
Yeah.
the team room. Like at the hotels, they'd get a massive suite. And like we're at wherever we were on the road. And then and in Boston, for home games the night before, players would come stay at the hotel that we were already living at. So like we were living at the W Hotel in Boston, and all the guys would come on game nights.
Did they give you a
So guys
lounge
would,
at the home hotel too?
we'd have a lounge there too.
That's
Yeah.
great.
And there'd be
Yeah.
like the Bruins really did that well. And I think Chara Bergeron, like they probably drove that bus and communicated with Claude Julien pretty closely on that kind of stuff. But I mean, especially like during the finals, Rupp, or like in Vancouver, like the guys are all getting ready to play. We're at the Roxy every night and coming back and bringing a crew back to the team room at 3-4 o'clock in the morning because all the boys are sleeping, you know. So it did, and then you run into Michael Ryder and you're like, oh my God, game 7 tomorrow. Why are you awake at 3:30? And then he goes out and he's unbelievable. So
we had that later on in my when you got a little bit further along, we started bringing in the Xbox, the PlayStations, and we were playing. You're playing. You get 2 TVs in there. You get the FIFA group, and then we usually had like Call of Duty on the other one. And I remember in Pittsburgh, we got it taken away, and Dan Bilesma was the coach, and he got wind that Marc-Andre Fleury was he would just play Call of Duty, and he'd be in there by himself till like 3-4 in the morning playing Call of Duty, and he was playing the next day. So they're like, "What are you doing?" He's just like, "I couldn't sleep." And he's just in there playing all night. But yeah, you just veg out, and to your point, man, it's the best because the world stops. Like it literally feels like, and I say this in a joking manner, but it's so true when you talk to at that time, that's a little, I mean, God, it wasn't that long ago. I guess it was 20 years, but it
does. I mean,
when you start comparing about society advancing and technology and stuff, it seems like a hell of a long time ago. But a little bit before, like auto pay on things where you actually paid bills, right? You used to write checks when they came in the mail, when your bills came. I remember during the playoffs, man, I'd have a pile of bills at home that were like that I haven't paid. I'm like, it's just like I have phone calls galore. Like I just didn't return calls. It was just like we were in our own planet. The world didn't exist. I didn't know what was going on in society. And it's a cool place to be because we're all hockey nerds, rink rats, and you get to really be that. You feel like a little kid and on weekend tournaments, but a little bit more at stake.
And that's where the emotional toll comes in, right? Like it's just nonstop 24/7. Like you're not even like really seeing your family probably during that.
Yeah, no, long stretches. I mean, even to that point, and we were at home all the time through the playoffs in New Jersey. So you would literally game 1, say you're opening game 1 of the playoffs at home. The night before game 1, you're in the hotel in New Jersey. You play game 1. You can go home that night after the game. The next morning we go to practice. Straight from practice back to the hotel. That's the off night. Then the next day we treat it as a game day. So I mean, it was a long grind. Yeah. So the families really had to, pay a big price as well as those playoffs go on a little deeper.
Lou's going to take it to the extreme. I feel like I got the light version of that with Claude Julien, and Claude Julien did come through the new, like he came through the Devils, right? So I probably got the lighter version of that whole thing, Rupper, but I can only imagine, like when I hear the stories about how back in the day with Lamoriello, like when paychecks would come, you'd have to physically get your paycheck from Lou. Like he would be the one to hand you the paycheck. Could be what, 3, 4, 5, 600,000. It could be $1 million, and you had to. He was handing you a hot check for that amount of money. Like I've heard those stories, man. I mean,
I think Scotty Gomez has told those. Like those are good ones from Scotty Gomez.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Scotty's got the best. Gomer's got the best stories of
yeah. We're having him on next week, by the way. Rupp.
Oh, Gomer?
He's coming on the show next week. Obviously, just took the job. Him and Mott's in the USHL. I talked to him yesterday, and they're in the middle of their summer training camp. But I think either Tuesday or Wednesday of next week, he's going to jump on with us. So we'll get some good stories from him.
Oh yeah, he's the best, and he'll have them because him and Lou had a pretty special relationship. And I know they've hit heads a couple times, but they respected each other. And Gomer would be great for that.
But Rupper, I just again, like, I know we've had you on here for about 30 minutes, and we appreciate you getting up early in Edmonton time. I guess, like, if you're looking for something tonight, a response from Florida, and I know Oilers fans kind of got mad at me for what I said before when I was like, the Oilers played as good of a game as they could have, and what I meant by that was the way they handled Florida. Obviously, Edmonton can still play better, but you don't see the Florida Panthers look like that very often. Like, I don't know if we're going to see the Panthers get dominated like they did in game one. So if there's one thing you're really like looking for tonight, not one player, I know you mentioned Matthew Tkachuk, but what sort of response are you looking for from both teams here? Because Edmonton could still ramp it up, but Florida, you got to think they're going to be better.
Yeah, I don't see a world where this doesn't go 7 games. I thought that before. I think Florida's got another level. I think they find. I mean, I mean this, like, they are the most impressive business-like team I've seen in quite some time. They're gonna push back. I don't know what to expect in this game. I will say this, and maybe this is more Edmonton related, and this is area of the game that I was familiar with because I had to be, I guess, in the NHL. And I know a lot of people will be like, there's no place for that in the Stanley Cup Finals or in the playoffs where fighting is not there. I just hang with me for a second.
Okay. Yeah.
I think the biggest X factor that I thought going into this series was Evander Kane. And I wonder what last year would have looked like if Kane played more than those 2 games at the beginning. But, whatever. You're here now. This is a guy that I think he was the reason they scored 2 of those goals in that game. Going to the net, just creating chaos. He's forechecking. He had a tough time. I don't know if you guys noticed. He had a tough time getting the puck out of his own zone a number of times in the game. But anyways, he made a lot of things happen. And what I mean here is, like, think back to 4 Nations and how big the start at Canada was against Canada with Matthew and those guys kind of getting things going with those fights and whatever you want to say. But the whole premise of that, I think, was like, we're here now. We're different. Team USA is different. And we know what that did in the States, right? Like, lit the country on fire in the hockey world. And even like a lot of non-hockey fans became fans. All I'm saying here is, if Evander Kane looks around, I love Florida. I've said that numerous times here. Mm-hmm. Florida has a lot of guys that play tougher than I've ever seen them play in their career because they're all locked and they're all like, you've got them all. You got them all coming at you. But if Evander Kane looks around, there's nobody on that team that can touch Evander Kane in the fighting department. Now, you'll say, well, there is no fighting in the finals. If Evander Kane leans into that, I think this is a big moment. He can sit there and he should do it at Rogers Place. He should do it in front of the whole hockey world. And I love Matthew. Line up with Matthew and show everybody he's not going to fight me. Line up with Sam Bennett. He's not going to fight me. This is our time. We're different now, and I think that's something that you could really lean into for Edmonton to be like, this year's different. You know what I mean? Because you've got that guy that he's the toughest guy in the series, and everybody in the series knows. And if Evander Kane gets out there and he starts being a little bit more of a wild man, being smart, not taking penalties, I think it sends a message like we all felt as Americans watching Team USA at 4 Nations. That'd be a huge boost here. So, if he doesn't do anything dramatic like that, this is still a guy that goes in the net hard, creates some chaos, and maybe he can get to Bobrovsky even more than he already has.
Has there never been a fight in the final?
Oh, there has to have been one.
There has to have been one, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't even have to be a fight, because I personally, Gadjevich would fight him.
Yeah.
But I don't think it needs to be a fight. I think you want to sit here, everyone with Florida Panthers, they're this, like, Edmonton is a different team now. And I think those moments when you see that, like, then all of a sudden, all the chirping, all the little antics that Florida does so well, you can squash all of it. If you're on Edmonton and you're seeing Evander Kane going on here and looking at everybody like, you guys aren't going to do anything. Now, all of a sudden, what they say, what they do, the little antics they do, they don't mean as much. They don't bother you as much because you've shown them up in that situation. I'm curious if Evander Kane will have a even more of a physical approach than he did in game one.
Yeah. And I think he will. And I'll just say this.
Everyone's saying
to
that
the-
Kim Cavalier fought in Game 3 of the 04 Cup Final.
That's right. That was wild.
I don't
Yep.
remember that. I got to go back and watch that.
I do. That was
That
the
was
year
great.
that because Tampa took the Flyers out on their way to in the conference finals that year. Like I was a decently young kid watching
Vic.
that series. But yeah, I mean this is captain on captain. This is big boy stuff.
Not at the time. Not at the time they weren't captains, but
oh, they weren't captains at this time. Okay,
Andrew Chuck was the captain for Tampa.
Good call. Yeah,
I don't know who the captain was for Calgary, but yeah,
Jerome McGinley was the captain. There's a C on his jersey, so I think that makes him the captain, Johnny. But yeah, I mean, you see these two guys fighting, and you're sitting on the bench. Oh man, that is a big moment. So, look, I'll just say this: as much as we're we think Edmonton is different, I know Florida fans are going to come comment on this. We have said over and over, Florida has set a bar for what this should all look like over the last couple of years. Someone still needs to knock them off the mountaintop. Yeah. We can analyze. We can say Edmonton's different. Let's talk about this again in 2 weeks. We'll see if Edmonton can take them out. But as of now, they're the bar that everybody's chasing, the Florida Panthers. And that has not changed no matter what happened in Game 1, no matter what happens in Game 2. So my last question for you here, Rupper, before we let you go is, give us a prediction of what we're going to see tonight after 60 minutes of hockey.
I feel like that this is going to be. I think Florida's going to shellac them tonight.
Wow, really?
Yeah. I just feel like this. I think way too much. I will say this: I have Edmonton in 7. Mm-hmm. Both teams are different. Florida has been different for a little bit of time now. They're wired differently. I respect the hell out of them. Like they are going to give you a lot. I wonder. I just can't imagine them going down 0-2. I can't imagine it. And I almost can't even imagine them just eking by in a game right now and getting a win, although it doesn't matter how you get the win. I just feel like there's a statement game here coming from Florida. And then it's going to be that power struggle back and forth all series. Who can grab a hold of any kind of momentum? But I'm expecting big things out of Florida in Game 2.
Yeah. And they've given us every reason for at least for 2 years to agree with what you're saying. I mean,
hey, I got one. Can I flip the script and ask you guys a question?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if they win this year, Florida, I hate using the word dynasty because I don't think we'll see another dynasty since the Oilers of back in the Wayne days. But we have modern day, I guess, dynasties, right? And so, I mean, probably more modern day. I mean, you can argue the Devils had 3 cups in 8 years. But let's go a little more recent. I think that there was Chicago has the 3 cups, right? So Chicago's always going to be in that conversation. You've got LA, who I think LA had the most dominant run, but it was like not as long. It was a lot more, compacted as far as how many years. Then you got to get in. I mean, you have to get into the Penguins, and then you have to. I think the leader for me is Tampa. Tampa has a 15 finals with a lot of the same core guys. So if you go 15 all the way till now, and man, I
even back to 11, Rupper, Game 7 conference final against Boston.
There, you can go all the way back there. I mean, they had this run in I think they missed the playoffs maybe once in that span, and they've been
once or twice. We did this the other day. It's like once or twice.
They've been a contender, a legitimate contender, pretty much every single year. Now, I think Florida, if they win, I think there's an argument. I think Florida's starting to get into that. Maybe not yet,
of course,
but they're if they win now, I put them ahead of LA. I put them ahead of Pittsburgh of what they're doing because Pittsburgh had the back-to-back, but they had some gaps of years that it wasn't great, right? They've had like the either really good or the not so and underachieving. But I don't know what you guys think. Like if what this does for the Florida Panthers in like the modern day dynasty.
Listen, three cup finals, winning 2 of 3, back-to-back. Even if you go back to the year before, when they lost, was it to Tampa and the year Tampa went to the finals and they lost
so you got President's
Colorado.
Trophy,
Yeah,
President's
it was-
Trophy.
then back to back finals.
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's 100% as far as a modern day look goes. There's no doubt. Chicago gets 3-6,
Yeah.
and they went for it for about 8 or 9. I think that's what's fun when you get these like little mini dynasties, Rupper, and what's so entertaining about them. And you can look at Chicago and talk this exact light. Yeah, they won 3 in 6 years, but they went for it for about 8 straight years. They
Yeah.
went all in at the deadline. They
Yeah.
sold their prospects. They traded futures. Now they're paying for it, no doubt.
Yeah.
But like, you got to respect that. You got to respect a team. Like Vegas is going to crash eventually. They're going to crash. Tampa's going to crash eventually. Florida eventually will get there. Now, good drafting, good trade deadline, good free agent signings. It can help you, but look, it's Florida's 100. If they win, I mean, we'd be crazy to not put them in that conversation.
And they're not going anywhere. They're not going away. I mean, they're in the Calder finals. I mean, this team, they're here for a while still.
Well, and everybody wants to just say, oh, it's because of the income tax. And every time I see that, Rupper, I go, are we just going to ignore the job that the general manager has done? Whether it's Samoskevich, who's become an NHL player, Marchand, the Jones trade, like we're just going to sit here and ignore all these brilliant moves this guy makes and say, oh, it's because there's no income tax. Like that's where I get annoyed about that argument.
Yeah, no, there's a lot more to it than that.
One thing I just wanted to add too, again, like to me, like to be an actual dynasty, you need 3. You need to win 3.
That makes sense. Yeah,
I think you need to win 3. Like granted, they're obviously in that conversation, but like the teams you were naming over the past 15 years we were talking about, Rep or 2, like think about how big of a disappointment it is that Boston only got 1 for how good they were.
That's a good point because they were arguably the
most consistent team,
high-end team. They were a contender every single year. It feels like, it's wild that they only got the 1. It really is.
And then my last point,
you're a few bounces away in 13. I mean, the Chicago loss was on home ice and but again, you can look at some of the same ingredients. You found Brad Marchand in the 2nd round. You slow played him through the AHL. Adam McQuaid, he's an AHL player. You developed him through. You made a couple of good trades. Tuukka, he was in the American League. You slow played him through. You caught fire with Tim Thomas. Like, there's common denominators when you look at these teams that have been really good for a real long time. And we got into it with G yesterday on here, Rupper. Everybody just wants to murder Don Sweeney, and sure, like he deserves a little bit of shit for some of the drafting, but he's done a lot of really, really good things too that I think we're just like quick to dismiss when we get into these arguments. We don't talk about we only talk about GMs when they're bad.
Mm-hmm.
When do we don't like praise the guys who actually do a good job?
My last thing though here with Florida, just to like keep it, to what we were talking about before, we talk about goalie contracts. Like Bob is like, and how they'll look at the end, right? Bob is 36 years old doing this, but we're talking about cup window. He's got 1 year left on that deal. So what does Florida do if they're going to continue this little dynasty? I use air quotes for audio only run. What does their goaltending look like after this contract's up? Like if Bob is still playing at this level at the end of that contract next year, like does he get 2 more?
I'm not trying to cut down what Bob does. I love Bob. I think what they've built here, they'll be fine.
Yeah.
They'll be, because they will figure it out. We've seen Vegas figure it out because the structure that they have, the identity, all those things, the really hard things, I think, to establish and to cultivate in a franchise. I mean, they're the poster child of having those situated. So they can go and have, I mean, it's going to be hard to ever get another Bob.
Yeah.
But they can be fine with good goaltending, solid goaltending. and then they could use some of those assets maybe somewhere else. I mean, yeah, it's going to be an adjustment because Bob is Bob, but I think they're so good. I think they're so structured that I think they'll be just fine whatever route they go.
Yeah.
And they're also the team just like Vegas, like they're like the New York Yankees of hockey. Like you never know, they'll pull off a huge deal. Next thing you know, they're gonna end up with somehow they'll convince Vasilevsky to come over for 2 years from Tampa and be great.
Yeah. All right.
Zito seems to have his finger on the pulse, and with those new facilities they just built, they turn that South Florida complex into a little country club. And what's a better sell than come to the country club and practice, and then go play golf? Go play 18 holes of golf on your off day. That's
we're going to win some cups along the way.
Yeah. Yep. All right, Rupper. Listen, you're the best. Who won golf yesterday, by the way? I saw it was you, Catherine, Boyle, and Demers. Who was the winner yesterday?
Brian, the big man. The big man was good. The rental clubs looked like little tykes with him and I, but we did our best. But he was really solid. Him and Demers. And I was probably the caboose yesterday. So it was a bit of a grind.
I heard KT's a good golfer.
KT's good.
I've heard she's a good golfer. I heard she works on her short. I heard she's got a good short game. I wouldn't expect anything less from KT to be working hard at whatever she's doing. So you'll have to tell her you came on today. We had some scheduling conflicts with her this week. We're gonna get her next week when you guys are in Florida, hopefully. So
she's great, and I'll mention her. I'll tell her you guys said hi.
Thanks, Robert. We appreciate it.
Yeah, bless the show for us. All right.
Enjoy the game tonight and have a good weekend. All right.
All right. Thanks, guys. Enjoy.
All right. Yep.
He's the best.
I like that he has a different, like, Rupper never just comes at you with the narrative of the general narrative.
Yeah.
Like he'll go dig in like 4 layers deeper and something else, and he just like really gives you something to think about. I thought the points that he was making about like the fourth line, like 5 minutes with your line, like it's interesting to hear him talk about that and how Ray Shero kind of sold him on that, to get him to come to Pittsburgh, and it is applicable with Sid and Evgeny Malkin. I mean, if you're going to look at duos, they're in the same breath as Connor and Leon. I mean, there's no arguments there, right? I mean, even an Oiler fan, I would think, wouldn't argue that as far as duos go, and the type of impact that 2 players can have on a franchise. So do we have anything else, Johnny, from a sponsorship element today that we have to make sure we land the plane on before we sign off for the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely got Bet365. I don't have a hot take today. We got to do our Ninja Crispy hot take. Do we have any? I want to use this opportunity to get a hot take from the chat. So I'll start with we'll start with Bet365. I'll get into my thoughts in the game tonight. And I kind of feel the opposite of Rupper. I don't know if this is a statement game from Florida. I actually think it might be a statement game from Edmonton, believe it or not, as someone who has the Panthers in 6. But with Bet365, if you want to get in on the action for Stanley Cup playoffs, Bet365, they got you covered from game props, player props, totals, and the money line. You can even bet on future series or futures like series winners, Stanley Cup champions, and much, much more. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. So download the app and get in on the game, an official partner of the Stanley Cup playoffs. You must be 19 or older. And tonight we're actually going with the under. The total right now is set at 6.5 at -125. Got to think both teams tighten up defensively. Last game was way too loose, way too wide open in a game 1 of a series. Both goalies I thought looked pretty good. So the under tonight is the play for me in this game. And let's see what we got as far as hot takes go here. Anything stand out to you?
I think we'll go with Ian's.
Go with Ian's? Reinhardt doesn't score this series? Ooh, I kind of like that.
I mean, that would certainly be a hot take because Reinhardt is a goal scorer. That's what he does.
So let's give a quick word from our sponsor, presented by the Ninja Crispy 4-in-1 portable gas air fryer. We'll do our Ninja Crispy hot take.
Meet the first of its kind, the Ninja Crispy portable cooking system. The power of a full-sized air fryer in the palm of your hand. So you can cook big or small batches. Just prep it, crisp it, serve it, and store it all in one.
It's an all-in-one system that includes a 4-quart, 6-cup Tupperware glass container and 2 storage lids. The Ninja Crispy is thermal shock resistant and can go from frozen to crispy in minutes. With the Crispy Power Pod, you get the power of a full-size air fryer in the palm of your hands. The 4-quart container fits 4 pounds of chicken or veggies, so you can cook a personal-sized meal in 7 minutes. In the 6-cup container with Max Crisp, bake, air fry, and recrisp. With the Ninja Crispy, you can prep, cook, and store anything from crispy favorites to one-dish meals. So visit their website in the link in the description, and we've been talking about it all playoffs here on Morning Cup of Hockey. Now it's time for you to win your very own Ninja Crispy 4-in-1 portable glass air fryer. All you got to do is head to our Instagram page and find our contest sign up. Follow at Ninja Crispy Canada and reply with what kind of dish you'd like to cook in your Ninja Crispy. And we are going with Ian's Sam Reinhart to not score a goal in this series. It looks like we have another one. Vic just said use Zach Boychuk's. Where's Zach's? I got to scroll up and find it. What did Zach say? Oilers in 4. That is certainly a hot take. Wow. I don't think that's going to happen, Zach. I respectfully disagree, but I like the boldness behind that. All right, Colby, what do you think for tonight's game? I think Edmonton actually wins tonight and takes 2-0 series lead.
No, you know what? I think I'm in the camp with Rupper. We started this out. I said Edmonton in 7. And I do think this is just going to be a power struggle back and forth. I think these are the most evenly matched teams. They are the best 2 teams. They feature many of the best players in the National Hockey League. I have a hard time. I have a hard time seeing any team win 2 in a row in this series. Like, I really think we're just going to go
Which is so funny to say
forth.
because they both won 3 in a row last year.
But I just think the ebbs and the flows, it's going to look a lot like game 1, where Edmonton came out with their hair on fire. And then in the second period, it leaned into Florida and they really controlled play. And then the third period in overtime, right back to Edmonton. Like, these teams are too good to not have big pushes and to not apply offensive pressure. And I think you're going to see they're going to create mistakes because of the pressure that they can make and they can put on you, whether it's forecheck, whether it's speed through the neutral zone for Edmonton. Like, there's going to be mistakes in this series. And I know you and Zach Boychuk like the under tonight. I don't know how many unders are hitting in this series. I really don't. I think Florida will win tonight. But I still feel very good about Edmonton in 7. And listen, we'll see how it pans out.
I thought Ruppers, Victor just said hot take Kane fight someone. Like, I think that could even be considered a little hot takey, right? To see someone fight. But he's the best. I mean, that was a great call too. And who are we saying? What was it? I think we said, was it Vic that said, like, if Matthews fought in round 2, that would have just like set the hockey world off after what was the hit or something? I'm blanking right now. There was one play in that Toronto Florida series where I think Vic and I were saying Matthews should just fight. Vic goes, I don't think it was me. Matthews won't fight. Never mind. But that's all
I don't remember. I don't know what you're talking about either. So all right, let's call it a day, Johnny. It's been a long week. Another good Friday show though, where everybody showed up and everybody had their comments in the chat and people participated, which again, we're always super appreciative of. I see the subscribers went up. We're getting closer and closer to that 30,000 subscription number. I'm looking at it right now on the YouTube page. And so let's keep hitting that subscribe button. Let's keep hitting that like button, get those automatic downloads going. Leave your comments. I saw yesterday people left comments on some good cups and mugs that are going to stay hot for me. So I'm going to make sure that I order one of them and see how it goes. And then I'll move on to the next one if I don't like it. So I do appreciate your guys' recommendations on that. Johnny, enjoy the hockey game tonight. We don't have another one until Monday of next week. The NHL just is apparently allergic to trying to make it easy for people to watch.
I don't mind that though. It's a Friday night. You get to hang home, watch the game. They're not going to play a game on Sunday with the travel from Edmonton to Florida. I don't mind that.
Oh, yeah, I understand it. But if you started the series earlier, you could have set yourself up for,
Yeah.
a
Could have been a Monday,
Sunday.
Wednesday, then
Well,
yeah.
you could have had a Sunday game. You know what I mean? You could have put it in a marquee time slot. Obviously, you're not. It's not as if you're going up against Roland Garros. It's a 6-hour time change, right? So you're not going up against a major. There's no NFL right now. I think it's a little bit of a miss, but next week is going to be weird. Monday game, Thursday game. So Wednesday's episode and even probably part of Tuesday's episode, like we're going to probably look for some random sort of guests to come on and talk about some other different things about hockey, just because how we can only talk about one game so much. So we hope everybody has a great weekend. We appreciate you guys rolling with us. We're winding down our season here, Johnny. We do not have a lot of live shows left until we get into off-season mode. We haven't exactly decided what that's going to look like yet, but we will let you guys know. We will do something in the summer, one day a week at least, maybe a live one here and there. We don't really know yet. Maybe, mostly just pre-recorded, interviews and conversations, but we will let you guys know as we get closer to the end of this series. Everybody have a great weekend, and we'll see you Monday morning.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Saravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.